It is 3 o'clock. We're rolling. All right, it's 3 o'clock. I will call the meeting of the zoning administrator for Thursday, October 19th, 2023 to order at 3 p.m. All right, the first item on our agenda is to receive and file the minutes from the September 21st, 2023 zoning administrator meeting. I did not serve as the zoning administrator for that meeting. However, I will receive and file these minutes for the record. The next item is oral and written communications. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to talk on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to our public hearings. The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the zoning administrator will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. We have 3 items on the agenda. There's been a request by staff to reorder the agenda and have item B heard first. And that is minor architectural permit 18454, office addition to City Golf Course Clubhouse at 150 East Avenida Magdalena. And it looks like David Carrillo is our staff planner. Mr. Carrillo.
Yes, good afternoon. So as mentioned, the project is located at 150 East Avenida Magdalena. This is the city golf course. So the subject parcel consists of a clubhouse that's currently occupied by a retail shop, Dave Cook's PGA Golf Shop, and an event center, Wedgwood Weddings, which is the applicant for this application. The applicant is proposing to add a 98 square foot office at the front of the clubhouse, which will be enclosing a portion of the loggia that faces Avenida Magdalena. This is to accommodate administrative operations that would support the event center. The architecture will be consistent with the existing architecture, Spanish Colonial Revival. The project proposes white stucco, wood windows, and doors. There is no new roofing material proposed, as the existing clay tile roof over the loggia will stay intact over the new office. So, for staff's analysis in the staff report, staff supports the request and recommends that the zoning administrator make the required findings, given that the project's design, consisting of white stucco and wood windows, is in keeping with the primary building's Spanish Colonial Revival architecture. The addition remains within the existing roof footprint and meets all development standards, including setbacks and height. The project maintains a recessed space between the front of the loggia and the face of the 2 flanking front gable wall planes, consistent with design guidelines that call for recessed wall planes for relieved building elevations. And lastly, the project keeps the general aesthetic of the clubhouse intact and with landscaping between the building and the public right-of-way. So staff is recommending that the zoning administrator determine the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA and approve the project subject to the attached conditions of approval. And we do have the applicant available if there's any questions. Yeah. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Carrillo. Would the applicant like to say anything?
No. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Absolutely. All right. Are there? I will open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this item? Okay. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Okay. Thank you for the staff report, David. I've visited the site and reviewed the staff report and the information provided. And I do agree that this is a worthwhile project. I think it adds some value to the city's facility and provides our lessee with some additional options. Just for the background on this, to confirm that this has gone through all of the necessary city processes. This was previously reviewed by the golf course committee. Was that correct?
That's correct.
What was the date that was reviewed by them?
That was March 1st, 2018.
Okay, and then was there any subsequent city actions as related to this project?
Yeah, the city council also reviewed and approved March 2018 as well.
Okay. All right, so then the next step being the permit at hand has been reviewed by the development management team and the planning division. And so this should be the second to last approval necessary for this. There's a building permit process that will be subsequent to this. All right. Okay, thank you, David. I've got a couple questions that came up from my site visit. The plans, I do like the plans. They're complete enough to provide a conceptual approval for this project. However, there were a couple items in the area where this addition will be located. Specifically, a hose bib that's been recessed into the wall. There's some security lighting that's in there. There's a wall sconce light that's there. Those items are not specifically addressed in the plans, but I just want to ensure that we're not removing any necessary features of the city's building. So I think we can address that through a condition of approval, with planning staff having a little bit of discretion in the building permit process to ensure that all of those details are being addressed in the final plans. So with that, I will approve staff's recommendation to determine the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15301, and adopt resolution ZA 23-017 approving minor architectural permit 18-454 office addition to the city golf clubhouse for the reasons that staff has outlined with respect to the project's ability to meet the required findings for the minor architectural permit as staff identified. The one thing I would like to add is a new condition of approval number 5.13. Actually, we don't have a 5.11, so let's do that. And this will actually play off of condition 5.10, that planning staff shall have the discretion during the building permit plan check process to ensure that features such as hose bib connections, security lighting, potted landscaping, and I'll say other lighting is incorporated appropriately into the design of the addition. And so with that, you are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's good.
And that's it. We can step outside
Thank you
and
very much.
talk about the next steps. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. All right, and with that, that brings us back to item A. This is the city antenna permit 23-103 for Dish Wireless Facility. John Champa is the planner that was assigned to this. However, I believe that Jonathan Lightfoot, our city planner, will be presenting on his behalf.
Yes, thank you, Adam. And I do have a graphic presentation that's on file with the planning division that I'll walk through to explain this project. The project name is the Dish Wireless Telecommunication Facility at San Gorgonio Park. And the first slide here indicates our reason for being at this meeting. There was a review of this same item at a prior zoning administrator meeting on August 17th. However, staff discovered that the letters for the 300-foot radius were not mailed out. The prior approval is vacated, and noticing was redone correctly for this public hearing. So, revisiting this item, the background is covered on this slide. San Gorgonio Park is within our open space public zone and has several wireless facilities installed on ball field light standards. A city antenna permit is required for new or replacement of a decommissioned, which is any facility inactive for over a year, a wireless facility. The city can confirm that this tower was decommissioned because the prior lease expired, with the final payment being received in 2015. The existing light standard and equipment enclosure would be utilized for the proposed project. The wireless master plan requires flush-mounted antennas. And to clarify too, the city antenna permit is specifically for projects that align with the existing or the recommended design specifications of the wireless master plan, which this one does. This slide just shows the project location, the star there indicating the general location of the tower with the equipment enclosure adjacent, generally in the area of the basketball courts at San Gorgonio Park. So, describing this project, the light standard is a 79-foot tall facility. It replaced an existing 79-foot pole when the prior tenant installed their equipment. So this project will remove any remaining equipment from that light standard and install 6 panel antennas at a height of 59 feet. There would also be 12 radio or remote radio heads connected to that. And then associated ground equipment, which includes equipment cabinets, power, GPS unit, and other facilities. This slide shows the general site plan. So at the bottom, the red and green are those basketball courts that were referenced, and just above that is a restroom, and behind the restroom is a CMU block wall enclosure that includes the equipment area. And off to the right, we have the light standard indicated by a call out as well. On the right is the existing elevation, and the left is the proposed elevation. So you can see there's no new poles proposed, no new walls or enclosures proposed. Equipment is just going to be placed on existing facilities. So for the project analysis, staff can conclude that the design is consistent with the pre-approved design concepts of the city's wireless master plan. It utilizes an existing light standard and equipment enclosure. The design review subcommittee supported the project design, and the project does comply with the city antenna permit findings. And therefore, staff recommends that the zoning administrator approve this city antenna permit. That concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is available for any questions as well.
Okay, then I'll just open the public hearing now. If you'd state your name for the record.
Eric Mears with Plancom for Dish Wireless.
Okay.
And I'm here for any questions if you have them, or otherwise, Jonathan did a great job.
All right, excellent. Well, then with that, I'll close the public hearing. I apologize. Okay. Thank you for the staff report, Mr. Lightfoot. Very well done. Let's see. I'll start with the public comment. The staff report indicates that no public comments were received on this item. I take it that means at the date of publication of the staff report. Has there been any public communication about this item, and if so, what was the the topics covered.
Sure. There was a communication from a member from a neighbor in the San Antonio neighborhood inquiring, so they did not submit a comment or a recommendation on this item. Their questions related to whether or not this was indeed an existing facility, and clarifying staff's response to that. Identified that the original user of the space was Metro PCS, and that they received their entitlement, but through a different process. At the time, the city's process for reviewing this type of project was approved administratively by the city manager. So there's not the same type of record that's generated from public hearings at that time. So I clarified that component, as well as that there's no longer an existing tenant at the space, but that the same facilities will be used in this project.
Okay. And then you did cover this in your report. Thank you about the renoticing. Just for my information, do you recall exactly how many properties are within 300 feet
I do not
of this
recall.
site? Okay. I would assume it's probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 20.
I honestly
Freeway
can't
on
say.
one side, so I'm thinking
Yeah.
just that little
And it's a
apron
lot of
on
park.
the lower. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We've had a lot of interest in cell facilities lately, and just want to cover that we're doing everything we can to ensure we encapsulate the public's comments or concerns. All right. Jonathan, could you go over the CEQA determination on this and just confirm with me that these are typical exemptions utilized for similar wireless facility requests?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. So there are two exemptions referenced in this project, with the Class 1 and Class 3 that's pursuant to CEQA guidelines 15301 and 15303. Both of these exemption types are fairly common, especially for facilities that are either co-locating or using existing structures that are being mounted onto. So the Class 1 exemption particularly addresses existing facilities. So in this case, as clear from the photos and the existing site conditions, there is already an existing on-site equipment enclosure and an existing pole that can accommodate wireless facilities in their conduits. So those are physically present already, and so the Class 1 exemption is appropriate. The Class 3 is also appropriate in this case. The Class 3 exemption addresses new construction or conversion of small structures. That can be any number of things, from accessory facilities like a shed up to and including even residential units and commercial buildings up to 2,500 square feet. So in this case, the facilities certainly are of a smaller nature than what is permitted within that Class 3 exemption. So both of those exemptions would be appropriate for use in the case of a project like this.
Excellent, thank you. In reviewing make sure I get the name right, the Radio Frequency Electromagnetic Energy Jurisdictional Report that was prepared by EBI Consulting. It does indicate a statement of compliance that the RF exposure levels are within the FCC guidelines. So there is no issue with meeting those standards. I did visit the site and did notice there are some existing items on the pole. Those will be removed as part of this process. Looking at the design, and the staff report does indicate that the new design does comply with our wireless master plan design guidelines. Overall, I think it's a better look than the exposed antennas. And so with that, I will move staff's recommendation to first determine the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15301 and 15303. And second, to adopt resolution ZA 23-014 approving city antenna use permit 23-103 Dish Wireless Facilities, subject to the attached conditions of approval. For the following reasons. The proposed project does comply with the height limitations. Excuse me. The proposed project complies with the height limitations of the zoning district in which the project is proposed. The proposed project does not interfere with the transmission or reception of other signals in the city, and the proposed project does not create adverse visual impacts to the surrounding area or to the city at large. And finally, the proposed project is consistent with the pre-approved design concepts for the city properties identified in the City of San Clemente's wireless master plan. All right. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
You too.
All right. And that moves us to the third public hearing of the day, minor conditional use permit 23-107, Soul Align Yoga at 300 El Camino Real, suite number 202. And Kyle Weber is our staff planner. Kyle.
All right. So, minor conditional use permit 23-107, Soul Align Yoga is a request to allow group yoga instruction at an existing chiropractic office use located within a multi-tenant building at 300 South El Camino Real, Suite 202. It is located in Mixed-Use 3 zoning district and within the central business and architectural overlay. The applicant is only proposing an expansion of use, and the request is to operate instructional group yoga involving private classes for 5 to 10 students. The subject suite is located within an existing 16,000 square foot, 2-story multi-tenant commercial building that accommodates a variety of commercial uses, including professional offices, a commercial bank, and local Starbucks. Surrounding land uses include various commercial and general office uses within, and the closest residence located around the subject site is approximately 120 feet from the tenant space. Approval of the minor conditional use permit will allow the group yoga instruction classes within a 730 square foot portion of the existing 1,800 square foot suite, where the applicant currently operates a chiropractic business and a massage establishment. The city's zoning ordinance requires zoning administrator approval of a MCUP to allow group instruction within the mixed-use zoning district. Group instruction is defined by the zoning ordinance as an establishment that provides non-counseling, non-therapy instructional services, which includes yoga. Soul Align Yoga will operate as a private studio 7 days a week, Monday through Thursday in the mornings and afternoon, and only provide morning classes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For parking in the area, the zoning ordinance requires group instruction uses to provide 1 on-site parking space per employee and 1 on-site parking space per 2 students. The chiropractor office currently operating within the suite requires 1 parking space per 200 square feet. Therefore, based on the parking analysis provided by the applicant and reviewed by staff for accuracy, Soul Align Yoga will have 1 employee and a maximum of 10 students, and therefore requires 11 on-site parking spaces, which results in 2 spaces of excess parking on site. The proposed yoga studio will play amplified music during classes, which must be consistent with the amplified sound administrative policy to address potential noise concerns. Condition of approval 1.12 mandates that if city code compliance staff receives noise complaints and confirms that the noise is in excess of the city's noise ordinance, applicant must provide a third-party acoustic study at the applicant's expense. And if necessary, the applicant must add noise reduction features to the building design for the MCUP to remain valid. The project meets the required findings for approval because the project uses conditionally permitted use within the mixed-use zoning district, and conditions of approval laid forth in the attached resolution to the staff report, ensure that the neighboring establishments are not affected by potential noise impacts. Also, the proposed hours of operation are consistent with the surrounding uses, and no exterior or interior building or site changes are required or proposed to operate the use. Required parking is provided on site, and the project is consistent with surrounding uses in the multi-tenant building where a fitness studio has operated previously. The project is categorically exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act because the project involves a negligible expansion of use to an existing facility, and that it permits the operation of a yoga studio within a multi-tenant building where similar uses have been conditionally permitted. No public comments have been received on this item. So based on the information in this presentation and staff report, and subject to the required findings and conditions of approval, staff recommends the zoning administrator determine the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA and adopt resolution ZA 23-016, approving minor conditional use permit 23-107. That concludes staff's presentation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weber. I don't see anybody here, but for the record, is there anybody here that would like to speak about this item from the public? I will open the public hearing and close the public hearing. All right. And the applicant is not present as well. I'm assuming that you've had communications with them and will relay any information that comes from this meeting. Okay, so diving in. All right, so looking at the vicinity map, there's a green box drawn around the building. However, their parking, the parking that is devoted to this building is also the large parking lot directly west of the building.
So that is true. So if you look at figure 1 in the staff report, it is a similar aerial image of the site, but the box includes the parking that is included for the uses on site. So not only is it directly west, but northwest as well. That parking is set aside for the bank use. Mm-hmm. And so in the parking table, the analysis that was provided by the applicant and reviewed by staff, the parking spaces for the bank were included in that and then allotted to the bank in that analysis.
Okay. All right. So the 69 spaces, or I should say, let me rephrase that. In the parking table, find it.
Page 2.
The 67 parking spaces that are required, all of those plus 2 additional that are not being utilized by any business currently proposed, all of that is actually available on site.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. I do appreciate the information about the conditions of approval as it relates to sound mitigation. One thing I am not seeing is there a condition that limits, or a part of their application that would limit any overlap of classes occurring? Meaning that one class would end and another class would begin at the same time, which would potentially put them in a situation where 20 students are on the property at the same time.
That was not included as a condition of approval. I think at the time staff saw that there was actually excess parking spaces, granted only 2, that it seems that the parking that is available, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, with such limited numbers, I wouldn't anticipate that being an issue, but I think it would be in our best interest to ensure that it doesn't become an issue. So I will recommend a condition of approval. I'll call it 7.29. That the applicant shall stagger class end and start times such that no classes occur within 15 minutes of another class, to ensure that there's no overlap of parking for students between classes. And I know that's
necessary parking. Okay.
yeah, I know that's I know we've got some standard conditions of approval, or some conditions of approval that we've applied similarly to other projects. I'll let staff word it so that it's consistent, but the gap between classes, I think for 10 students, 15 minutes is plenty of time. I also noticed that the applicants are not currently proposing classes on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Are we limiting, or can you explain any conditions of approval that limit their hours of operation? And are we limiting them to only Monday through Thursday, or do they have plans in the future to expand?
Just to clarify, the use is proposing classes Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but morning only.
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, there are no classes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so there is a condition of approval, or maybe it's within the resolution. Give me 1 second. No, the times that are mentioned in conditions of approval are referring to noise, actually. So we don't have a condition of approval that limits their operating hours for classes to the schedule that was provided.
Okay. Let's see. Their earliest class is at 6 a.m. and their latest class ends at 8:15 p.m. I am familiar with this area, and I did stop by the site ahead of this meeting. There are some residences that are close by, but for the most part, the parking lot in the Avenida Rosa and all the other commercial properties in the vicinity tend to insulate this property from residential. However, there are some residences that are sort of, I'll say, across the street from the parking lot. I think it would be good just to ensure that this type of group instruction use is as consistent with residential as possible, that another condition of approval be added. We can call that one 7.31, that the hours of operation, let me rephrase that, the applicant, including any property owners and managers and their designees, shall limit operations of the group instruction use 7 days a week between the hours of 6 a.m. and say 9 p.m. In case they want to expand a little bit, and that the studio shall not open to patrons prior to 5:45 a.m.
I think the applicant would be fine with that. So.
Yeah. And just as a note for the record, minor amendments or modifications can be made, and depending on their potential impact on public or significance, these could be approved by the city planner. So let me see here. All right, so we covered.
We do have condition 1.9 that talks about any changes or requests for expansions of the use would go to decision-making body for the minor conditional use permit.
Any request for expansion of the use? Yeah, for an expansion of the use. Yeah, actually, I like that better.
Yeah.
But we do have also 1.3, the last half. Any modifications to the project shall be reviewed by the city planner in accordance with zoning ordinance section 12-180.
Okay, perfect.
But yes, for expansions of the use, that would require a review by the zoning administrator.
Got it.
And that looks good to me. All right. So just to clarify, the tenant space here, looking at their path of travel on the map, there's one tenant space that has a chiropractic use, which is being reduced, an existing massage use, and then the proposed studio in the area where the chiropractic use was, but will no longer be because they're reducing their footprint. Is that accurate?
That is accurate that the chiropractic use is using some of the area that where the yoga studio is proposed, not all of it. Some of where the yoga studio is proposed is not being used by anything right now.
Gotcha. Okay. But it is one suite that they
That's correct.
that they
It's
walk
one suite.
into.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And the massage use is associated with the chiropractic use.
That's right.
Do
So
they have a minor conditional use permit?
they do not. So the way that works, the chiropractic use is ran by a licensed chiropractor, and as long as they have staff working through their license, that they can operate a accessory massage with that legally without an MCP.
All right. Perfect. Okay. All right. So we've covered noise, parking, I'll say potential neighborhood impacts. So you have answered all of my questions. And just to confirm, the staff report indicates no public comments have been received. Since the publishing of this item, have we received any comments from the public?
Still no comments have been received.
Okay. Then with that, I will move staff's recommendation to determine the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, and to adopt Resolution ZA 23-016 approving minor conditional use permit 23-017 Soul Align Yoga, a request to consider a group instruction use at 300 South El Camino Real, Suite 202, subject to the attached conditions of approval. And I will just incorporate the conditions that we discussed previously by reference, and there were two identified as 7.29 and 7.31, addressing the hours of operation and the separation between class end and start times. And then one other note I will make, I would like to modify the title block of the resolution. it should just read, a resolution of the zoning administrator of the city of San Clemente, California, approving minor conditional use permit 23-107 Solo Line Yoga to allow group instruction use at 300 South El Camino Real, Suite 202. And I am approving this for the reasons identified in the staff report, that the project does meet the required findings for approval, specifically that the proposed use is conditionally permitted within the mixed-use zoning district. Proposed hours of operation are consistent with surrounding uses. Required parking is provided, and it is provided on site, and that the project is consistent with surrounding uses in the multi-tenant building where a fitness studio operated previously. With that, thank you. All right, moving on. We have no new business. There is no old business, and so I will adjourn the meeting to the next regular meeting of the zoning administrator, which will be held at 3 p.m. on Thursday, November 9th at 2023 at the Community Development Department, first floor community room, located at 910 Calle Negocio, San Clemente, California.